This was Lee Jung-do, and he liked doing adrenaline-rushing activities. He was good at judo, kendo, and taekwondo. In fact, he was so good at 3 of them. Apart from doing sports, Jung-do also played video games with his 3 best friends, each of whom had a unique nickname, namely Moisture, Earthworm, and Kang. Even Jung-do had his own nickname, Diarrhea. Even though he spent a lot of time doing what he liked, Jung-do never forgot to help his father deliver food from his family restaurant to their customers. Jung-do was also very kind and humble to everyone he met. Even the owner of the hair salon he frequently visited, Sun Jung, liked how polite and kind Jung-do was to her. After delivering the order to Sun Jung that day, Jung-do intended to go straight to his friend's place to continue their game, but in the middle of his journey, he saw a probation officer named Minjo being attacked by a probationer. Because the probationer wanted to kill Minjo, Jung-do ended up having to intervene. Due to his unintentional heroic actions, Jung-do ended up receiving an award from the Supervision Division because he was considered a hero who had done good for society. The officer of the division, Sun Men, was very grateful to Jung-do for his action, because Minjo might have lost his life if Jung-do didn't help. Sun Men then told Jung-do about how their job as a probation officer. They were tasked to monitor probationers. Sometimes the people they monitored caused problems, so they had to always be prepared 24 hours a day in case the worst happened. Officers like him who didn't have the strength to fight were paired with people who were younger and stronger called self-defense officers. Sun Men then asked about Jung-do's job and what activities he often did. Jung-do said that he was just a delivery man and a judo, taekwondo, and kendo athlete. Hearing that, Sun Men looked so happy, and he made an offer to him to become a temporary self-defense officer to replace Minjo for 5 weeks. Sun Men said that there were very few supervisors serving as self-defense officers, so they were in dire need of them. Sun Men dared to make such an offer because Minjo had spoken directly to him about how strong Jung-do was and how tough he was in paralyzing the probationers who attacked him. All the requirements to become a self-defense officer were already within Jung-do, so Sun Men begged him to be a temporary officer in Minjo's place. Jung-do asked if this job was fun, because for him, as long as it was fun, he would be ready to do it. It seemed that Jung-do was still a little unsure about the work he would do. Therefore, he asked his 3 friends about it. Kang was very supportive, because this work was very suitable for Jung-do, who liked physical activities, but Moisture and Earthworm suggested that Jung-do refuse the job because the job would quickly bore him, and he wouldn't have time with them. Didn't get a clear answer from his 3 friends, so Jung-do asked his father about it. His father said that he would be very happy if he accepted the job and asked him not to worry about their shop because he was still able to manage it alone. As the days passed, Jung-do finally accepted the job as a temporary probation officer. He was warmly welcomed by the officers there and was taught about how to use their program. On the monitor, the green icon was the probationers who they kept an eye on. The color of the icon would turn yellow when the bracelet battery reached 30%, and when it happened, they had to contact them and persuade them to charge the bracelet. If they refused the request, then they were required to meet the probationers immediately. Time passed and Jung-do seemed bored with his job, because for hours he just sat in front of the computer without doing anything, but suddenly, after waiting for a long time, one of the icons of a probationer named Yang Ho turned yellow. Jung-do immediately did what he was told. He got very annoyed because Yang Ho repeatedly ignored his calls. He then told Sun Men that Yang Ho had hung up on him twice. Hearing this, Sun Men invited him to immediately go to Yang Ho's residence. Before leaving, Jung-do was provided with the equipment for field officers. He was told to turn on the body cam before they started, and he could use a stun gun for self-defense. During their journey to the location, Sun Men said that in the past, Yang Ho had committed a crime by raping underage women and had been sentenced to 4 years in prison. They finally arrived at Yang Ho's residence, but Jung-do, who often passed by that area while he was delivering food, asked Sun Men to go in alone through the front door because he suspected that the window which had no iron bars was Yang Ho's house, which had been deliberately prepared for him to jump, so he would be on guard outside the building. Meanwhile, Yang Ho was trying to rape a girl, which made her scream for help. Sun Men, who heard this, tried to break through the door. According to Jung-do's expectations, Yang Ho tried to escape through the window of the house. Jung-do looked very happy because he finally had the time for action. He paralyzed Yang-ho, who was trying to escape. Sun-min gave him appreciation because he managed to complete his first-day job very well, and that made Jung-do even more enthusiastic. The next day, Jung-do got a warning that a probationer named Jong-in was outside his probation area. When he got there, Jung-do looked very angry because Jong-in hadn't changed at all. He was still stalking children. Jung-do was so angry that he intended to beat him up before Sun-min came to stop him. He apologized because he couldn't control his emotions. However, Sun-min said that what he was doing was cool. He wanted to treat him to thank him. Jung-do refused the invitation because he already had an appointment with his friends, but if his boss allowed him to invite his 3 friends, then he would accept it. Sun-min then agreed to treat Jung-do's friends too. When the 2 of them arrived at the restaurant, Jung-do's 3 friends welcomed the 2 of them and began to introduce themselves. While eating, Kang asked Sun-min why he chose a job like this instead of being a police officer, which in terms of salary and status was better. Sun-min told him that when he was 10, he had a serious car accident that caused depression for him, but when the thought of despair filled his mind, the police appeared to save him. He actually wanted to become a policeman who could also do good to all the people who needed his help, but because of the accident, the growth of his left leg was slower than his right leg, causing it to be shorter and hindering him from being a policeman. He still tried to be useful to society, so when there was a job vacancy to be a probation officer, he tried hard to be one of them because he wanted to create a safe world. At the probation office, Young Bin, one of the probation officers, was working the night shift when he got a notification that a probationer's bracelet only had 30% battery left and he couldn't call his cell phone. When he was about to go to that man's location, he got another notification alerting another probationer named Do Won, so he called Sun-min to immediately come to Do Won's location because they had received 2 bracelet notifications from different places. Hearing the news, Sun-min invited Jung-do to immediately go to Do Won's location with the help of his 3 friends using a car owned by mshorror. When they got there, Sun-min and Jung-do got a notification with a red icon, indicating that the ankle bracelet had been removed by Do Won, making it very difficult for them to find the exact location of Do Won. Fortunately, mshorror brought a drone, so he helped them down Do Won's whereabouts. After finding Do Won, Jung-do asked them all to stay there while he followed Do Won with their instructions. Do Won, on the other hand, was breaking down the door of his friend's house. He was very angry and wanted to kill his friend because his friend kept making fun of him because of the ankle bracelet on his leg. Jung-do tried to stop him, followed by resistance by Do Won. Thinking everything was under control, Jung-do was shocked when Do Won stabbed his neck, trying to end his life. Sun-min then tried to guide Jung-do with his words so that Do Won would not dare to do such crazy things. Through Jung-do, Sun-min said that bad things happen to everyone, but he shouldn't end it all, or the 20 years of prison he had gone through would be in vain. He would help with the report so Do Won wouldn't receive another sentence, so he asked him to put down the cutter and hold on a little longer. The day when he would be free would soon come, and until that time comes, he would be by his side. After hearing that, Do Won finally let go of the cutter. After that incident, Jung-do returned to his house feeling happy because he didn't expect his colleague to be very kind. His father, who saw that, felt happy too. He asked Jung-do to take a shower, then he could enjoy the apples that he had prepared. At that moment, his father saw the news on television about a recidivist named Ki-jung, who would soon be released from prison after serving a 20-year sentence on charges of sexual crimes against 15 children under the age of 13. News about Ki-jung's release became a serious discussion in the probation office because his release from prison would definitely cause distress in the area where he lived. The chief wanted Ki-jung to get strict supervision from them, but he was also aware of the limitations of their members and the government's very small budget for them. Therefore, they had to find a way for them to get strict supervision for Ki-jung without burdening the division. Before Jung-do left for work that morning, he stopped by Sun Jung's salon to get his hair cut. After that, he walked to the office. When he passed near a restaurant, he saw a man he met at Sun Jung's salon teasing the waitress with an ankle bracelet on his leg. Jung-do seemed to have a bad feeling and then rushed to his office to see who the man was. He then found out that he was Jung-nam, a former sexual offender. Feeling there was something strange about this person, Jung-do told Sun-min. Hearing that, Sun-min tried to call Jung-nam's cell phone. However, it seemed that Jung-do's suspicion was right, so the 2 of them immediately headed for the location where Jung-nam was, but on their way to the location, Jung-nam's ankle bracelet lost its signal. which of course made them both even more panicked about the possibility of what might happen. Arriving at the restaurant, Sun Min then asked about Jumnam. The waitress there said that she didn't know where the man went, but what was certain was that before the man left, he asked her to come with him to his house. The two of them then split up to look for Jumnam. Before they separated, Sun Min said that sexual criminals tend to look for a place with only one worker. After a while of looking for Jumnam, in his reverie, Jung-do remembered that Jumnam stopped by Sun Jung's salon earlier that day. His hunch was right because, at Sun Jung's salon, Jumnam was trying to rape Sun Jung. Sun Jung tried to fight back and screamed as loud as she could for help. But she had no power against Jumnam. She could surrender to what Jumnam would do to her, but luckily, Jung-do arrived there and immediately broke the glass door to save her. He wanted to beat Jumnam, but remembering their standard protocol and how Sun Min's kindness in dealing with the probationers, he decided to just strangle Jumnam to paralyze him. In the morning, when Jung-do came home, his father had been waiting for him with breakfast that he had prepared. His father said that Sun Jung just stopped by to thank Jung-do and praised his actions for saving her. His father then told him that he was very happy to see people happy because of his hard work. His father then told him that if there was something that made him happy, he had to fight for it. At the probation office, the manager conveyed good information that the head office had approved a budget to recruit 2 more self-defense officers. The head office was also going to send 2 supervisors for Ki Jung's special supervision team, but he failed to ask for additional personnel to watch him out, thinking that out of the 15 sexual crimes committed by Ki Jung, 14 of them were committed during school hours, so the most important thing for them was supervision during the day. Immediately after the meeting, they met Jung-do, who seemed to be waiting outside the meeting room. He suddenly told Sun Min that he wanted to work as a permanent employee in the division. Hearing this made Sun Min very happy, because with him, he felt like he was invincible. After officially becoming one of the permanent probation officers in the supervision division, Jung-do accompanied Sun Min to pick up Ki Jung on the day of his release. Ki Jung looked like a cruel psychopath and didn't care about the situation around him. His escort back to his residence had to use a lot of police because many people had been waiting for his arrival to throw him out of their area. In the evening, Ki Jung's acquaintance from prison, Byung-soon, came to his residence to welcome him. Byung-soon asked him to go up to the top of the building where he lived to just smoke and discuss the work they were going to do. He told him not to worry about the ankle bracelet because if it was still in the same building or 10 meters away from the building, it wouldn't trigger the system. The next day, when monitoring Ki Jung, Jung-do saw that Ki Jung's green icon started moving. He then asked for permission from Sun Min so he could follow where Ki Jung went to avoid an incident that might happen. Jung-do managed to follow where Ki Jung went, but because Ki Jung entered a shopping mall, he lost track of him. It turned out that Ki Jung was in the parking lot of the building to meet someone in a black car who was going to invite him to work with him. That person was Min Wook, who offered him to make adult videos with children which he would distribute on the dark web for a fee of 10 million won per 10 minutes. He would look for the children for the video, so Ki Jung didn't need to bother thinking about this. Jung-do, who was still looking for Ki Jung's whereabouts, arrived at the parking lot. He tried to approach Min Wook's car there, however because the glass was dark, he couldn't see anything inside, but he remembered the car's plate number. Finding a dead end, Sun Min tried to help him by calling where Ki Jung was to confirm his location. Ki Jung, who knew that he was being followed, answered the call and said that he was at a restaurant so as not to arouse suspicion. Jung-do immediately confirmed his whereabouts, which made them both believe that Ki Jung was really at the restaurant. When Jung-do arrived at the office, he thought hard about what Ki Jung was planning. Both he and Sun Min suspected that Ki Jung was trying to trick them. Shortly after, Min-jo showed up at the office after 5 weeks of being treated in the hospital. Min-jo thanked Jung-do for helping him and saving his life. Knowing that Jung-do had become a permanent probation officer, he gave him a pair of tactical gloves as a gift which might be useful for him when he was on duty. At nightfall, near Ki Jung's house, a girl was seen walking alone to her house when a small dog distracted her. Suddenly, a man came from behind and kidnapped her. Somewhere else, Byung-soon met Yang Ho to invite him to work with him. Ki Jung and Byung-soon were in the basement of Ki Jung's apartment. They decided to use that location as a place for them to shoot their videos. This way, they didn't need to worry about being suspected by the probation officers because they didn't leave the building. When Min-jo was on duty at night, he found that Yang Ho was outside the area where he was supposed to be. He immediately informed Sun Min about it. Moreover, he also confirmed that Yang Ho's phone was not active. Knowing that information, Sun Min called Jung-do, who was seen monitoring Ki-jung, telling him that he would look for Yang Ho's whereabouts with Minjo, so he couldn't assist him from the office. Jung-do, Sun Min, and Minjo each carried out their duties to track down the people they were monitoring. In the cold rain, Jung-do followed Ki-jung to an empty abandoned building. Meanwhile, Sun Min and Minjo were at the waste paper collector to look for Yang Ho's whereabouts. Just a few moments after they entered, they both heard the voice of a woman screaming for help. They ran towards the source of the sound only to find there was a trap that had been prepared for them. On the other hand, Jung-do was also trapped by Ki-jung, who locked him inside a garage filled with dozens of thugs, preparing to finish him off. Sun Min and Minjo tried to run from there, knowing they were outnumbered and might not be able to handle it. Minjo tried to put up a fight because he saw Sun Min being continuously beaten on the head using a baseball bat by Yang Ho. On the other hand, even though Jung-do looked overwhelmed when facing the thugs alone, he was able to finish them off. Unfortunately, the contrary happened to Sun Min and Minjo. Though Sun Min only suffered a broken neck, Minjo had to die in this incident. Later, Jung-do ran to Ki-jung's residence to confront him, but when he arrived there, he couldn't find him. He then saw that the basement porch was wet, thinking that Ki-jung might be there. It turned out that his suspicions were true because Ki-jung and Byung-soon were there shooting a video with the little girl they had kidnapped. After breaking through the trellis, Jung-do entered the place, and it turned out that Ki-jung and Byung-soon were already waiting for him. While fighting Ki-jung, Byung-soon came and stabbed Jung-do, but even with that stab wound, he was still able to beat both Ki-jung and Byung-soon. Thinking he had taken control of the situation, Jung-do approached the little girl to calm her down, but suddenly Ki-jung approached and stabbed him from behind. Byung-soon tried to escape from there after hearing the police siren, but Ki-jung remained there and fought the two officers. The two officers couldn't catch Byung-soon and Ki-jung, who managed to escape, but at least they were both able to save the little girl and Jung-do, who was losing blood due to being stabbed in the stomach twice. Jung-do's father, who knew that his son was in a serious condition, immediately went to the hospital to see how his son was doing. He was very angry with the supervision managers because the injuries suffered by his son were major. Jung-do tried to calm his father by saying that the injury was not fatal. Jung-do instead asked where Sun Min were and whether Ki-jung had been caught or not. One of the officers, Dong-hoon, said that Ki-jung managed to escape after he took off the ankle bracelet on his leg, while Sun Min was undergoing surgery for a broken neck. Sadly, Minjo had to die after experiencing cardiac arrest. Several months after the incident, Jung-do had finally recovered. He met the little girl's aunt, who thanked him for saving her niece. Even though she was still very traumatized by the incident, the woman told him that when she told the little girl about him, she seemed to have the strength to survive. Jung-do then went to Sun Min's room to see him. He then told Sun Min about the little girl he saved. Sun Min then told him that Ki-jung had a secret hideout that even the police couldn't find. He realized how Jung-do felt, but he didn't want him to get hurt again, so he told Jung-do to just let the police handle the rest. Jung-do then left the room to talk to his three friends. He told them that if the police couldn't catch Ki-jung, then they as civilians had the right to help. He remembered the black car parked in the basement that he found when he followed Ki-jung. He then asked Moisture to track the plate number down with the help of his brother, who was a hacker, while the others gathered all the things they needed to find where Ki-jung was. After some preparations, Jung-do and his three friends found Min-wook's house and visited him to get information. Moisture tried to break the door lock, and although he failed, the broken lock lured Min-wook out of the house, making it easier for them to enter the house. With the help of his older brother, Moisture tried to hack into the computer there, and after opening it, Moisture's brother was shocked because the contents were hundreds of video files of underage children that had been shot by Min-wook. This made Jung-do so angry that he lost control. His friends tried to prevent him from attacking Min-wook, only to accidentally make him poke Min-wook in the eye with a stun gun. Earthworm took advantage of the situation by saying that he would call a medic if Min-wook said where Ki-jung was. Min-wook, who was scared that the wound in his eye would turn into permanent blindness, finally said that he had a credit card connected to the illegal account that he gave to Ki-jung. If Ki-jung used it, there would be a notification on his phone showing where the card was used. The four of them immediately planned to catch Ki-jung after finding his location. The area marked in red was where he used his card in the past 2 weeks. There were several inns, which might be one of the places where he stayed. They then prepared themselves for their ambush, but when they were about to leave, Jung-doo's father, who was still very traumatized after seeing his son being stabbed, forbade them to go. Jung-doo said that 3 months ago, he didn't know anything about the ankle bracelet or the probation officers, but then he managed to save a little girl, even though she had to suffer from trauma. There might be another child who was scared and waiting for him to save them, and so that he wouldn't regret everything, he had to catch Ki-jung. He promised to look after himself. His father finally gave up and let him go. Arriving at the location, they prepared their equipment to look for Ki-jung. They split up so that they could quickly find him. After looking for a while, they still couldn't find him, until Moisture found one inn with some plates and shoes in front of it. When Jung-doo took a few steps into the inn, he heard Byung-sun's voice calling Ki-jung. After making sure that Ki-jung and his group were in there, Jung-doo asked his 3 friends to wait for him in the car while he went inside to finish his business with Ki-jung. Ki-jung and his gang came out after hearing Jung-doo calling his name. Jung-doo tried to beat them one by one. And after successfully defeating them, he ran after Ki-jung, who escaped from there. He managed to find Ki-jung, who was just standing there silently, waiting for him. Jung-doo was overwhelmed by Ki-jung, but then Moisture sacrificed his drone to save Jung-doo, who was in danger. The long struggle was finally done, not only managing to defeat Ki-jung, but Jung-doo also succeeded in catching him so he could serve his sentence again in prison. After the incident, Jung-doo and his 3 friends got an award from the president for their services and bravery in arresting Ki-jung. The little girl Jung-doo saved before was also seen attending the event. She was no longer afraid to come out of her house. Sun Min, who had recovered from the injuries, was also there. He looked happy to see the 4 of them.